Greetings and salutations, word campers. It is I, Johnny from sunny Florida, even though I'm really in Santa Clarita. I don't know how this all works, but we do have the magic of technology. Kim Blaze is behind the scenes working all the technical stuff, and we've got our featured speaker for everything you want to know about video and WordPress. 14-year WordPress veteran filmmaker, been doing stuff on Netflix and National Geographic, the New York Times. This guy is big. Let's leave no more introduction. Let's just get right to Joey Daoud, bringing you everything you want to know about video and WordPress.
Thanks, Johnny. Hello, everyone. So my name is Joey Daoud. I'm going to talk about everything you want to know about video and WordPress, and an addition here, live streaming. So let's jump into it. It's kind of a walkthrough of how things are going to work in the presentation. What I'm going to cover, we're going to talk about why video matters, and specifically why YouTube matters. How to use video in your content workflow, using video specifically in WordPress, some tools for video making, and live streaming. So let's get into it. So let's talk about why video and YouTube matters. So with content and YouTube and social media, there's kind of this sort of dichotomy. You sort of have content. You have your WordPress. You might have a blog. You might have articles, PDFs, sort of long form and educational or interesting content. And then we kind of have the social media channels they're all familiar with: Instagram, Facebook, TikTok lately. And usually YouTube kind of gets grouped into these social media channels. But I sort of like to see YouTube as this intermediary that kind of falls between the two of, and especially in this use case, obviously there's a lot of uses of YouTube. It's just this massive platform. But the kind of coverage that I'm talking about here with YouTube is using it to create content that is longer form, that is useful, that is sometimes entertaining, interesting. That kind of falls more on the side of what you would achieve with a blog post when you're sort of creating your content strategy with your website and your blog, rather than kind of quick updates or quick viral videos. So let's keep that in mind. I'm going to also be using video and YouTube interchangeably. Sometimes what I talk about will apply to both. Sometimes it might be a little bit more YouTube specific or not YouTube specific. So one reason YouTube is important, 90% of people say they discover new brands or products on YouTube. So another kind of common statistic is that YouTube is the second largest search engine. I'll try to dig into that, see if that's still accurate. But regardless, it's a massive search engine, especially as ages skew younger. So when you're kind of looking for a question to answer and stuff, you might hit Google, or you also just might hit YouTube to answer those questions. So that's something to keep in mind when you are adapting content and creating content for YouTube that we're going to dig into. So let's talk about some reasons for video in general, why that might be useful for your business, and why YouTube can also be a good platform to tap into to expand your business, expand the reach, and expand the brand awareness of your business. So some examples I have here. First one, CrossFit. So I would argue that CrossFit grew into sort of what it is largely because of video, and they were very early in tapping into social media, but specifically video. And they were putting out videos before YouTube existed. They were doing their early workouts on blogs and uploading videos just as QuickTime files that you would have to download. And then they really tapped into YouTube and Facebook and the social media platforms, especially with like a lot of their high-end media production. And if you even go to their Facebook page, they're listed as a media company, not a fitness company. So they really put media first, and I feel like that fueled their growth. Similar with Red Bull, a lot of us are probably familiar with Red Bull and a lot of their campaigns, parachuting from outer space, from the stratosphere and jumping down. Chances are you remember that moment, and you probably remember that Red Bull had something to do with it. Even though he did not drink a Red Bull or had nothing to do with actually drinking any Red Bull, they're very much expanding their brand awareness by sort of tapping into this aspirational aspect with the video content they produce. Another good reason to tap into video, you can become a subject matter expert. So if you search for anything SEO, chances are you're going to find Brian Dean on Backlinko on YouTube. So he's really tapped into becoming that expert for SEO. Kind of going a little bit more niche, I just randomly typed in wood carving to kind of see what popped up. And Cornelius Creations has dominated the wood carving niche on YouTube. So there's really, you can kind of own your niche with whatever aspect or subject that your website or your company or your product taps into. Another good reason, it can showcase your product or service. So if you have a SaaS product, a company, or software-based thing, this is a really good platform to do that. So we look at Asana. Not only do they have sort of what you'd expect of like the tutorials and the how-tos of how to use the software, but they also have client testimonials and features and use cases and kind of expand into the realm of like ways to work rather than specifically what their product can offer. Another example is Arc'teryx, so they make outdoor clothing, and they just have tons and tons of videos of their products and use cases. And then they also kind of tap into that aspirational, having short documentaries of expeditions and climbs and other things that sort of tap into the lifestyle that Arc'teryx is going for. And especially with e-commerce, as another Google stat. So 80% of people say they typically switch between online search and video when researching products to buy. So if you have e-commerce, another reason why video is so important, especially now with if you had a brick and mortar or something, and that's not really an option right now. So video is a great platform to still kind of get that as close to being able for your consumer to see the product as possible. Video is also a good platform for repurposing content. We'll get more into that later, but just as a general example, if you already have a lot of blog content, this is a great place to start for repurposing it for video. And video is a great way, is one of my favorite ones, is a great way to rank in Google's video carousel. So if you've been searching for terms, for keywords in Google, chances are you've been seeing the video carousel, and this has definitely increased in the number of times it shows up in search results over the last couple of years. And the video carousel is a great place to get your content up higher in the search rankings. It's usually in the top 2 to 4 spot in the search rankings. And so this is a great way to bypass a lot of other listings and get your content up higher up. And we'll talk a bit more about how to do that. One of the latest stats from Rank Ranger was about 18% of searches have a video carousel in the US. So about 1 in 5 searches, people are going to see that. So that's a good place to tap into with your video content. All right, so let's talk about how to use video in your content workflow. And I'm going to have a bunch of ideas here of ways you can use video in your content. So what I talked about earlier, blog to video. So this is a good example is Elegant Themes. So what they do is with a lot of their blog posts, they'll put the blog post out, and then they'll kind of create a slideshow presentation highlighting the main points of whatever it is they're talking about in their blog post. And then they'll just do a voice recording of someone narrating through the content and the slides. So it's a recording and you don't see anyone. So this is a very easy place to get started, where you don't have to use a camera at all. You just need a good microphone, some screen recording software that we'll get into a little bit later, and just basic slide presentation software. So you can use Google Slides, Keynote, PowerPoint. They've kind of upped their game and done some more animation type effects, but you can start off, keep it simple, and this is a really good place to get started. Another workflow is going from a video to a blog or something printed, maybe like a white paper or a PDF. So Moz, they have a Whiteboard Friday series, and they'll do a video and they'll kind of have a whole diagram explanation on a whiteboard and break it down. And then they'll take the text transcript from that, but they won't just post the raw text transcript. They'll actually reformat that text transcript into a more SEO friendly and more legible blog post. While just basically it's the exact same content from the video. So you kind of get 2 pieces of content for the price of 1. Then we have standalone complementary content. So this is sort of what you might typically think of with the video and what I had kind of talked about earlier with Red Bull and some of the other videos. Some other companies to highlight with interesting YouTube channels. We've got Moment. So they make iPhone lenses for your iPhone to kind of create a more cinematic look by shooting on your phone. And a lot of their videos, they do have some videos to talk about the product, but they also have a lot of videos where they have nothing to do with the product. They just happen to be shot with the product. So again, kind of like Red Bull, it's like no one's drinking Red Bulls out there. They're in space. With Moment, they're just kind of featuring what you can do with the product without really being overt and talking about the lens. And then Nike, on a larger example, obviously they have a lot of aspirational videos, just do it. But they also have videos that have nothing to do with any of their products and just tie into sort of the lifestyle. So that Nike has cooking videos, and you can check out their cooking videos. Video to podcast has been a growing workflow or setup. Big example, Joe Rogan Experience. And so they'll live stream the podcast, the recording of the episode, and then that turns into their podcast. It doesn't have to be live. So Tim Ferriss, another popular example. Some of his podcasts, he'll record the recording of the podcast, but it's pre-recorded, and then he'll upload that later. And then there's live videos. This is a video, one of the series that I do, Video Explored on my YouTube channel. So that I'll do a live stream talking either about a video marketing topic or do interviews with other camera manufacturers or video creators. And then with some of those videos, I'll take the video will live on YouTube, but then also take the transcript like I talked about earlier and reformat that into a blog post. So it's a very easy way for me to consistently make content that is both live, engaging, then lives on YouTube, and then turns into a blog post. And then Adobe Creative Cloud is another example. This is a good way to tap into if you have something that's software or SaaS-based. They'll do a live broadcast of someone using one of the programs like Photoshop and doing a real-life workflow in real time. So this is both cool because you can, it's part tutorial, part showing off what you can do with the video. And it's also in real time, so it kind of makes it a little bit more accessible because sometimes you might watch a 5-minute tutorial video that cuts out a lot of stuff and you know, you're like, how'd they get from A to B? So this in real time shows how that process goes. So let's talk about video in WordPress and some ways we can use it specifically in WordPress. Top level, very easy stuff with Gutenberg block structure. There's a video block, very easy to use. You don't even have to pull the video block up. As soon as you paste a YouTube or Vimeo URL, it'll automatically convert it into an embedded video. And then another sort of built-in feature-ish, depending on what theme you're using, WordPress has the supported post types. And so this one was specifically with the Divi theme, and you could change the post format to video. It's sort of a specific use case if maybe you're putting a lot of videos on your website and you want to have more of a magazine layout that has clickable videos. All that does is instead of showing the featured image in your category page or your blog feed, it'll show the first video in your blog post as an embedded video on the category or the blog feed. It's a bit of a specific use case, but it's an option there that's sort of built into YouTube. And when we're embedding videos and putting them on our website, I just want to have a brief note here to talk about video accessibility and sort of just some very basic high-level stuff as far as accessibility requirements or getting certification levels, A, AA, AAA, when it comes to video. So these were pulled from the accessibility checklist. I have the link on the bottom here. And level A, basic stuff, is getting your videos transcribed, your pre-recorded videos, having them have captions and having a link to a text version of the transcript available near the video. So that's level A, and there's a lot of transcription services out there that are very low cost. And there's also, YouTube has a AI captioning that's gotten a lot better, but you can also very easily go in, double check the AI captions, make any manual adjustments, and republish that as a verified caption. So at the very least, you should do that. It helps with accessibility. It also does help with video SEO and some other technical aspects. AA, live videos have captions. So you're watching this live video right now. There was a live captioner captioning this video. And so that's a AA level. And then AAA is sort of providing sign language translations and also an audio description, which is a separate audio track. And you can go to that link to find an example of that. And that's for AA and AAA. But the AAA providing a sign language translation for live video. So we've all been seeing a lot of the government broadcasts lately. And they usually have a sign language interpreter standing next to the person speaking. So that would be the case of a AAA accessibility rating for video. Okay, so let's talk about some other plugins that have some other use cases when we're talking about video for WordPress. So maybe you don't want to display your video inline. You want it to be in a light box that pops up. A couple options for this, but one that I've liked that I found works really well and is very easy to work with Vimeo and YouTube links is Wonder Lightbox. And so that's very straightforward. They have a free and a premium version of the plugin. And it's easy enough to create clickable links that pop up and display your video in a nice lightbox. Another useful plugin that this was actually brought to my attention by a WordPress meetup, WP YouTube Lite. And so that adds a bit of a lazy load feature to your video. So when you do embed the video, it will slow down your page load time. And so this will pull the thumbnail image from the video, display it as an image, and then once the user actually clicks on the video, then it will load after the fact the video. So it increases your initial page load time without loading the video until the user actually clicks on it. And speaking of videos and how we're going to host them, how we're going to display them, when you're doing videos, you can upload the media file, the MP4 or the QuickTime or whatever file you have. Not the most advisable. Definitely there are ways to accommodate that and do other working in with your server requirements and other ways to do it, but that's another higher level and sort of outside the realm of this. And for the most part, you're probably going to want to use a third-party hosting platform or content delivery network to host your video and to be able to display it on your website and make it accessible and available to your website users. So on the free-ish end, YouTube, obviously, huge platform and option. And if you're going into YouTube as a realm where you want to create an ecosystem of content in YouTube, that would probably be your best bet. Trade-off with YouTube, especially if you have a newer account, you don't have as many controls over advertising that's displayed, how the player looks at all, and some other potential might just want to, you might not want to have the embeds of whatever tracking or other aspects that brings by embedding a YouTube video. So some other options, Vimeo, they have a pretty good free option, limited on in some regards as to how much you can upload and display. And Wistia is also free-ish. You can upload a couple videos for free. If you are going to be doing a lot of videos, then I would advise to going for a paid option that gives you a little bit more control and a little bit more bandwidth as far as what you can do and how your videos are displayed. So I use Vimeo Pro, and so that's a really good option. They give you a lot of control over the look of the player. So if you want to have more white label look, you don't want any branding, you can do that. It gives you a lot of control over where the video can be embedded. So you can just keep it on your website if you don't want people sharing the video around. So a lot of options there, and it's pretty inexpensive compared to the other options here. Wistia and Brightcove are higher level paid options, and definitely more geared for tracking a lot of different aspects with the video, and kind of more targeted for like landing pages and getting a lot more information and analytics over what people are doing while watching the video. And then also Jetpack, one of the paid options of Jetpack, they do have video content delivery service option. So that is another option there if you already have a Jetpack plan. All right, and so let's talk about video schema. So if you are embedding a video on your page and you want to tell Google, hey, this page has video and here's the information about the video, and I'll talk about why that's important in a second, you need to make sure you have the proper schema markup with your video. So the main thing you need to have is the video object. And according to Google, there's 4 required properties that you need to have for it to properly read. So description, the name, the thumbnail URL, and the upload date. And if you go into their support page, there's a couple of other properties that I would recommend adding if you are manually doing this. YouTube automatically does this by default. But if you are embedding another video on your page, you want to make sure you have the proper schema on it. And the reason for that is going back to the video carousel. If you look at the bottom, you might have to squint if you're on a computer screen. Probably should have zoomed in here. For the most part, the videos that show up in the video carousel, they are going to be YouTube videos. But if you have the proper schema markup, there is a chance that your actual web page can rank in the YouTube in the video carousel. So if you look at the bottom, the first link is YouTube, but the other links are direct links to pages on TechRadar and Tom's Guide for these videos. So the only way you can achieve that is by making sure you have the schema markup on your page. And then here's a bunch of different schema options, so you can do that. And I'll have a link for the slide downloads at the end. Going beyond kind of like other use cases, especially if you want to use WordPress as a platform for a paid service option, or you want to offer certain videos just for members only on your site. So you can go with a membership plugin. These are a couple of the more common popular options. And this would be a way where you can paywall protect your video, put it on a page. That page is then paywall protected for users for your members only. And this is where having a paid something like Vimeo would come in handy, because with Vimeo, you can limit where the video can be embedded, who can download it. And so that gives you the more control where you can say, hey, I just want this video to only be embedded on my website. So you put it on your website and you put it behind on a membership managed web page. And then if you really want to go higher up with video and create a full-fledged online class or a learning management system, that's where a learning management system plugin would come into play. So these are some of the other common popular options. And that's probably another level up from a membership platform as far as all of the features and options it adds for managing your website. And a lot of, even though it's not required, the expectation of a lot of online classes is that there's going to be video. And again, this is where you would want to protect your video so that it's only available for people that register for your online class. All right, so let's talk about actually making videos and how to get it out there. I'm going to start with sound, because I would argue that sound is more important than, high quality sound is more important than having higher quality video. Especially now we are streaming everything, and bandwidth is there's a battle for bandwidth and it's limited. So having better sound will drastically improve the perception of the quality of your video. So one option is lavalier. So I'm wearing that right now. Good choice, kind of gets the mic as close to the source of audio as possible. So it's getting close to the mouth. Shotgun mic. So this mic usually goes on top of the camera, or you can mount it again close to the source of sound, so above, out of frame for someone that's speaking. The microphones on a camera, they're a little bit more omnidirectional, so they're kind of capturing everything around. Shotgun mic is very directional, so whatever it's pointing at, it's going to do a lot better job at capturing a much cleaner version of that sound. And so if you're shooting with a camera, shotgun mic is a good accessory to get and add on top of your camera. And both of those options, they do make versions that are available for smartphones, that are available for Lightning, that have Lightning ports so you can connect to an iPhone, or just the 3.5mm jack for regular other versions of smartphones. And then also USB microphones, so these plug directly into your computer, and they add a pro level mic experience with a very easy way to set it up. Especially if you're in Zoom, you just change your mic source to whatever your USB mic is, and it's very easy. And so screencasting. So earlier I talked about some ways where you could turn a blog into a slideshow and then present that and record it. So some easy tools, Loom. So this is a free Chrome plugin, and it's very easy to just, in Chrome, you can record your screen, and they have a desktop version you can download, and that'll record your entire desktop if you have to record other things. But this is a simple way, and it has a nice feature where it can turn on your webcam and create a picture-in-picture effect. So you can just record your screen, but if you also want to add a little bit of human interest and a little bit of yourself into the video, you can very easily record yourself in the lower bottom corner of the video while you're talking and explaining your blog post or your presentation. And then on the higher, kind of more complicated end, we have Camtasia. As this is good if you have a lot of software stuff or something you need to do a lot of walkthroughs or tutorials. This is sort of an all-in-one program that can both do screen recording, and it has built-in editing functions, so you can put together your tutorial, add arrows, call-outs, mouse clicks, all that type of stuff to create a much more higher-end tutorial walkthrough, if that sort of fits more in the realm of your product or service. Cameras. So this could be a bottomless, limitless end of options, but I'm going to cover top-level things here. So I'm going to start with smartphone. A lot of us have smartphones. A lot of them have really, really good cameras. So especially if, going back to my earlier note about sound, you don't have to have, if you have higher quality sound, you can sell or create the perception of like a higher quality video, even shooting on an iPhone. And there have been Hollywood feature films that have shot completely on iPhones. There's a couple apps out there that'll unlock, give you more control over the image, Filmic Pro being the main big one. So yeah, so if you're just getting started, kind of use what you've got and you can keep it simple. If you want to upgrade and kind of go to something a little bit bigger, we got the DSLR mirrorless camera range. So that's going to give you more options. You can swap out lens, you can get different lens angles, different types of shots. You can get a shallower depth of field, a lot more control over the image and the way the image is recorded. So yeah, so more money, more control. And then one other thing to mention is a lot of the action cameras, or the main ones being GoPro and DJI Osmo. These cameras shoot really great quality video. They've added a lot of features to not, when they first came out, it was always like a super fisheye wide angle lens, so it always looked a little weird. Now they have different options to record changed the frame so it's not so it's more of an actual usable video camera and not just an action sports camera. And they're pretty medium cost. So that's another good option, especially paired with a good microphone and a good sound option. Next, we got lighting. So a lot of ways to hack your lighting and do good lighting has been coming out now that we're all on Zoom all the time. So if you want to invest in some lower cost lights, LED options, Amazon has a brand Newer, that's with 2 E's. And they have a lot of great LED options. When LED lights first came out and the low cost ones first came out, they would make you look very ill. Now they're much better quality, look pretty good. I'm using one right now. And then even if you want to up your light game, you don't even have to get lights in some cases. Just a lot of times looking around your space, using windows to your advantage, using sheets to kind of soften the light. You can do a lot just by repositioning where you're setting things up and how you're doing things and using available and natural light. And editing. So we've kind of shot all of our video and all of our elements together. What's really going to make it pop and really make it flow well is editing it down and making it into an engaging and exciting video. And that's going to happen in editing. So same idea here. I kind of have covered the whole gamut of devices to illustrate that you don't need to have a high-end computer to do editing. You can edit on literally any device. They make apps for everything.
I couldn't find a list called do editing.
And
should I create one?
No, ignore Alexa. So we have the smartphone. A lot of the apps for editing on the smartphone are going to be geared for social media type videos, but 2 apps that can do a little bit longer form content, it's going to be iMovie and Adobe Rush. And the nice thing about those is you can start on your phone and they have apps.
Those lists. What should I add to it?
Computer, ignore. You can start on your phone and you can move on through your tablet and your PC or desktop. With the tablet, like I said, those apps work on the tablet, but a specific app, LumaTouch, is designed for the iPad Pro. The iPad Pro. So if you're kind of trying to get away from using a laptop and you're using more of trying to get everything on your tablet and do all your work on your tablet, the LumaTouch is like a pro level app that is just designed for the tablet and to finish on the tablet. And then on the Mac and PC end, Final Cut Pro X, which is the pro level version of iMovie. That's one of the main options. Another big option is Adobe Premiere. So that's also the sort of more pro version of Adobe Rush. And then also there's DaVinci Resolve. And so that started off as a color correcting program for high-end films. It has a lot of editing features, but the best part is it's completely free. The basic level of software really doesn't have any limitations that would affect anything you're going to be doing for online videos. It's free to download. Blackmagic makes their money off of selling $30,000 color correcting consoles. So you can check that out. And so when we're talking about the sort of last bit of polish with graphics and sort of making effects and making the videos pop, don't reinvent the graphics wheel. You don't have to learn After Effects and get involved. It's a whole other tangent of getting involved in creating, learning that software. There are a ton of great options out there for templates to get graphics templates to load into your software. The 2 main software options that I previously mentioned that are going to have the biggest ecosystem of templates that you can download are going to be Final Cut Pro X and Adobe Premiere. And here listed on the site are a bunch of resources where you can download these plugins or templates, very inexpensive, $10, $20, maybe $50 for some of these effects. And you can get a lot of preset title templates, lower third templates, transitions, just a lot of stuff that you can tweak and customize and make it your own. But it's a great starting point. And for the price of the plugins, it would be way less expensive than hiring a graphic designer. And obviously there is a role for graphic designers if you need to do something a lot more custom. But for the most part, if you're just getting started, there's a lot of great templates and options out there. Okay, so let's talk about live streaming. So this is obviously a big area. We are all, for the most part, stuck at home. A lot of stuff has been switching to live streaming, especially if you have a business or service and you're trying to figure out ways to adapt how to go online, how to stream, and how to bring your something that might have been in real life and how to bring it into a virtual space. According to New York Times, we live in Zoom now. A couple examples of just the other day, this article came out on ways businesses are adapting. So online virtual wine tastings. On the bottom here, my old gym from Miami has been doing fitness classes online. I know Bluehost had the yoga session this morning. Virtual haircuts where you'll get paired with a barber and they will guide you through how to cut your hair via video chat. I'm not at that point yet, but I might be. So we're all in the Zoom world now. We're all live streaming and a lot of stuff's been looking the same. So let's talk about some ways where we kind of up our Zoom game and other kind of up our live streaming game and make things look a little better so it's not all the same FaceTime camera angle. So going back to cameras, if we want to up our Zoom game or just kind of up ways we can stream from a higher quality camera, sort of middle ground of like very easy to use, lowish cost upgrade is getting an external web camera. So Logitech, sort of the dominant player in this field. This is the Logitech Brio. There's a Logitech Stream Cam. There's a couple other cameras out there. Very surprisingly, there have not really been a lot of updates in the webcam field. There's another Logitech camera that's about 10 years old and is still a bestseller. If you already have a camera or you were going to purchase a camera anyway, such as a DSLR or a mirrorless camera or something that has an HDMI output, then you need a connection to get the HDMI signal into your computer. So on the right, we've got Elgato's CamLink, and that's probably the cheapest or least expensive option out there, about $100. Just turns your HDMI feed into a USB feed. You plug it in. In the middle, we've got the Blackmagic Web Presenter. It's got a bit more of pro connection options that you're really not going to need, but because of that, it's a little bit more expensive. And that's also easy. You plug it into your computer, and then your camera just shows up as a webcam in your computer. That's what I'm using right now. Huge, big asterisks for all this thing ever since everything is shut down and everyone's been stuck inside. Like every single one of these products has been sold out everywhere. The Web Presenter might still be available, but every webcam, every gizmo to connect a camera to a computer is out of stock everywhere. And everyone's aware of this, and there should be some stuff coming back at the end of the month or in May. But yeah, just adding that caveat, if you're trying to look at Amazon right now, I'm sorry. Okay, so encoding, so we're gonna get our camera feed into our computer, and then we need to take that feed and convert it into something that we can then stream to whatever live streaming platform we're going to be going to. And in that process, we can also add effects. This is where we can add lower thirds, we can add, pull in a chat feed, we can add tweets, we can add logos, we can play pre-recorded videos and mix it all together. So if you want to kind of create that cool, the more professional broadcast look, you need encoding software to do that. So some of the main options that I've got here, OBS, that is a free, extremely popular version. I believe that's what they're using to broadcast this feed right now. Works on both Mac and PC. On the higher end, you got Wirecast, has a bit more of a polished interface, so a little bit easier to use. A couple of additional features already built in. OBS is very much, you can kind of hack it and make it work and do it for you. Wirecast has that as a little bit more user-friendly. Those two are both software options. There's been a rise in online options, so you can just kind of do this all from a online platform. So Ecamm is one of those, and that'll actually let you pull in your camera. You can pull in pre-recorded clips. You can add lower thirds. You can add comments and chat feeds, and that's all managed through just your web browser and being able to do that. And then not mentioned here, but a couple of other options for software-wise. A lot of these are PC only. vMix, XSplit Broadcaster, VidBlaster X, and B.Live, which is another online option like Ecamm. So those are software options. The downside of software is it's going to be very taxing on your computer. So if you have an older computer or you just sort of want to like have a better quality feed, not worry about your computer freezing or the feed cutting out, then you need a hardware option. I'm kind of going to gloss over this, and these are just, I really only wanted to focus on one, but I brought two in here just so the slide didn't look so empty, because a lot of the hardware options are going to be a lot more expensive, and that's sort of another realm to get into. So the Yaja Hilo is probably one of the lowest priced ones. That's about $1,200. But I did want to mention this because this was just announced the other week, is the A10 Mini Pro. So this device kind of solves two issues I mentioned. It is a way to connect up to 4 cameras to your computer, and you can switch between them. But their newest version now adds a hardware encoder. So you actually don't need a computer involved in the process if you don't even want one. But you can plug in the cameras, and then it has the hardware part that can connect to YouTube or whatever platform you're going to, and then automatically stream. And so the advantage is it takes the processing power away from your computer and puts it on a dedicated piece of hardware, so you don't have to worry about your computer freezing or crashing out or not being able to handle streaming the feed out. And so let's talk about where we actually want. So we got this feed mixed up. Let's talk about where we actually want it to broadcast and play out. So the big goal you want to ask yourself is, are you offering a paid service? So you want to protect that live feed, only people that have access to it? Or are you trying to reach as many people as possible? And this is sort of like you just want to get your message out there, you want to market yourself or get your product or company out there. So when we're talking about paid or limited streams where you kind of want to restrict the access, sort of the one free option is going to be YouTube and doing an unlisted YouTube listing. That can kind of work. I mean, obviously anyone that has a link for that YouTube feed can share it and send it out there, but it'll work in a pinch. But also the other considerations we talked about with YouTube earlier still apply here. And then paid options. So there's Vimeo Premium. YouTube and Vimeo are good because they don't really have any bandwidth limitations as far as how many people stream and how much data goes out. The other options here, Dogcast, Wowza, Brightcove, they can all stream. They all give you a player you can embed on your site, but the payment is going to either be capped at a certain data rate as far as how much it streams out, or it's going to be a pay as you go, and you're going to have to like pay based on how much data you use. And so those are one directional. So one directional, like right now, you can see me, I can't see you. So I'm kind of just broadcasting this message out there. If you want something two directional, so like those fitness classes that I mentioned earlier, or something where you kind of want everyone engaged in the same virtual space, the options are more limited. So obviously Zoom is the big, huge gorilla player in the space now. And if you want to level up your kind of Zoom output, the software I mentioned previously, that software encoding software, so OBS, Wirecast, Bcam, they can output a virtual camera. And this should work in Zoom. We actually had tech issues with this earlier. Apparently the latest update of Zoom has squashed the virtual camera for now. But in reality, how it should work is you can then, where you choose what webcam you want, you can actually pick the output feed of your broadcasting software. So in your Zoom meeting, you can then put titles and graphics in lower thirds and play pre-recorded video right in your Zoom meeting. So that's something to keep in mind as a cool option to kind of, if you are running classes or something, you can kind of up your broadcast feed. And so two of the other kind of group options, Google Hangouts and BlueJeans. And then going to how to protect your live stream, kind of goes back to earlier, the plugins I mentioned. So you could either do it as a membership site and embed this live stream player on your site on a page that's only accessible by paying members. Or if you have something like Zoom, you can use a registration management plugin where people register on your site, and then only after they pay or sign up, they get the link for whatever your Zoom meeting or broadcast link is going to be. On the free end, we've got free. So this is a free stream. You want as many people to see it as possible. You are marketing yourself. So we got the main platforms you're probably familiar with: YouTube, Facebook Live, Twitch, which is a bit more in the gaming sphere, but I believe expanding out to kind of capture more categories. Periscope, which is sort of affiliated with Twitter. And then LinkedIn, which is currently for live streaming, it's just beta only, so you got to apply and they have to grant access to you. So you can kind of choose whatever feed you want there, but let's say that you want to stream out simultaneously to all of them. So with a lot of the software that I mentioned previously, you could individually connect that software to all of these streams. The downside is every time you stream, it's going to tax your upload bitrate. And so if you don't have a good upload bitrate, it's going to squash the streams. So an alternative to that is to use a multi-streaming service. So we have Switchboard Live, Restream, Caster. Some of the other paid, like Vimeo, can do this as well. And just full disclosure, Switchboard is a client of mine, but I'm not going to recommend one over the other. But all these things can achieve the same effect, where you basically send one stream to them, and then within their program, you say, hey, I want it to go out to like Twitch and YouTube and Facebook, and they'll use their bandwidth to simultaneously send the feed out. So it's a really good way to economize your bandwidth, because we're all on a bandwidth battle right now. So it's a really good way to kind of get your broadcast out to as many eyeballs as possible. But also when figuring out where to stream, the biggest tip I could say is go to where your audience is. So if you already have a big YouTube platform, if you already have a big Facebook group or a Facebook page or a private Facebook group, kind of tap into wherever your audience is right now and focus on that platform as far as where you're going to live stream. And that's it. Go create, go have fun. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the chat right now. And I know we'll address them as Johnny comes back here. And yeah, lastly, if you want to get these slides and I have some more resources and links, you could head out to newterritory.media/WordCamp. And thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Joey. That's chock full of information. I'm going to go over that video when I watched it on the replay many times because video is my passion. And before I started to do this moderation with you, I started writing down some questions for you. And you've been all pretty much. We do have a question. We do have a question from Teresa out there. Her question is, how do we add the required video schema to embed vids in WordPress blocks?
In blocks. I mean, with the schema plugins I mentioned, it's more of like it'll either add the block on your post page, and then it's like it's like a fill in the blanks. Like the screenshot I showed that had all the technical info, the schema plugins will make that much more user friendly. So whenever you go to update, to publish your post or your page, you just go to that block for whatever plugin you installed and make sure the proper information is filled out. And you can also select, they'll usually give you an option of what type of post this is to make sure that it is calling the correct schema, because there's like 13 or 15 different schema choices like recipe and book and whatever. So you can pick video and then fill out the information.
That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Still waiting on a couple more questions from the room. I did have some other things prepared. So your first documentary, or one of your biggest documentary, Strike, are you a bowler?
I was a bowler as a kid, and that was sort of the appeal from that story of, I wasn't even aware that there was a perfect 900. Like I knew about 300 games. I didn't know that you could do a 900 streak, and that was like an even rarer achievement. Yeah, so that was a fun story, and that was a fun film to make.
Got to get those turkeys, right? As a kid, I envisioned doing a similar movie on a smaller scale with Skee Ball, but you took it over the top there with that.
Skee Ball.
Yeah. So you mentioned using YouTube for streaming, and lately YouTube has changed their parameters. Now you have to have 1,000 users to be going live in certain aspects. Are you familiar with that new? Is
that a recent change?
Yeah.
There's a limit to if you want to stream directly from the YouTube app on your phone. Yeah. But I think you could still stream from your computer or with a thing, unless this was super recent. I'm not familiar with it. I think you could still stream from your computer with a new account. You just can't stream from a phone.
Yeah.
I actually forgot something I wanted to mention about when I talked about platforms. There was a big omission there as far as Instagram, and obviously that's another huge live streaming platform, but it's not there because Instagram doesn't have a way to accept any outside feeds. So you can only stream from your phone. You can only live stream from your phone for Instagram as of right now. So everything I talked about with the software and making your live feeds look like cooler, a little more professional, you can't do that on Instagram as of now.
Well,
so if anyone's like, why isn't Instagram there?
Around that, as a Mac
there are other services. Do it at your own risk. It doesn't follow with their terms of service.
Yeah. Cool. So then the other thing would be, you mentioned some of this hardware, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that obviously in a time where not everyone has the money to go out and spend $2,000 on a new computer, some of these devices are like $200, $300 to allow you to take that weight off of your computer. Which gear are you personally using, and do you use it mainly in your studio or do you use it remotely?
Yeah, I mean, I've moved most of my stuff at home now. Sort of a cramped kitchen table. I'm using Wirecast, and I'm using it on my computer. So on the hardware end, the devices to connect a camera to your computer, they are inexpensive. They're just hard to find right now. Once to output that and to use a hardware encoder, so to basically take like your video signal and turn it into something that you can then upload to YouTube live stream, that's where the equipment isn't as budget friendly and there aren't a lot of options out there. So I'm still using my computer. Luckily I got a new one last year. So that worked out, but it's a problem, if you have an older computer, And it does get very resource intensive, especially with the more effects and stuff you add. There's ways with some of the software where you can kind of turn off a lot of the graphics processing stuff in the way that it displays, so you can kind of buy a little bit more, get a little bit more computer processing power out of it. I did pre-order the A10 Mini Pro, which does have the encoder, so I'm going to kind of test that out. But that, as far as I've been able to see, that's sort of the lowest cost hardware encoder, but it's not a very big, yeah, it's not really like a consumer field. It wasn't before. Obviously now everything's changed. So there may be someone's going to try to adapt some of their hardware, but it's hard to find a hardware encoder that's under $1,000 before the A10 Mini Pro.
Awesome. Yeah, there's always
it's very expensive for a very specific use. Sorry.
There's always new stuff popping up, so I always keep my eyes open. You know, like that stuff you're talking about from Blackmagic. You know, something I had my eyes on, so I'm glad you were able to.
Yeah, I mean, they've got tons of great stuff, and they're usually really good with like taking something that used to cost a bunch of money and making it like still professional level and bringing it down in price.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time, Joey. We all appreciate the knowledge you've infused to us. Like I said, I got some hours of revisiting this footage to go through my notes and everything.
No problem. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, you can hit me up. And yeah, and thank you to Santa Clarita WordCamp and Joe and everyone for putting this on.